This week on the Game Marks podcast, we go back to one of our favorite series as we play Tag Team Match M.U.S.C.L.E for the NES. How does this game from 1986 hold up today? Will we play it forever or future endeavor?
You're fired!
All this plus gaming news, an update on GMP64, and Clash at the Feast. Plug in, put on those nostalgia goggles because this week's Game Marks podcast starts now.
And now, the Game Marks.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I'm the man they call Johnny Clash.
And I am the man of 1,001 nicknames, your reigning, defending GMP64 hardcore champion, George Feis. And today, we are playing Tag Team Match M.U.S.C.L.E.
You certainly are the man of 1,001 nicknames because when you say these things, I immediately think of over 1,000 nicknames I want to call you. But as always, we love to hear from you guys, so please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and make sure to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen, and join the conversation on social media at GameMarksPod and on Discord at GameMarksPod.com/Discord. Georgie, what's up? Big week. How you doing?
Oh, big week. You know, the hits just keep on coming here. Last Friday, got to go live with Matt from Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, play some No Mercy live on Twitch. That was fun. Got to show him some things that maybe he didn't remember. I'm going to go with that he didn't remember the backstage area, because I feel like you have to have known that was there.
That was a staple in the game. Everybody used, if you went through one story mode, you were guaranteed to hit at least one backstage area.
I have to believe, because he even said, like, I feel like I may have just forgotten about this, and I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that too. But that was a lot of fun to watch. You guys went through a Royal Rumble. You did some backstage stuff. It was a nice little, hour, little refresher on No Mercy. Kind of set us up for some GMP64. But before we get into that, last week we played WWF Royal Rumble for the Sega Dreamcast. You sticking with your rating?
Oh, absolutely. That game, for better, for worse, despite what some people may say, I think actually kind of still holds up as a arcade wrestling game. Sticking with it, what I said last week, I don't think that it really translated to the console that well, but I just, there's something about it, a certain charm.
Yeah, because like WrestleMania, arcade, in your house, those translated to console well. They were kind of built for console, even though they were arcade games. Like this one was just so, like, give me your coins. Like, when there's no way to lose in a game and you could just keep continuing, there's kind of something about that too. But friend of the pod, Liam Davis, has been giving it to me all week for playing it forever because he thinks it's probably the worst game. I think he was just let down as a kid when he got it because it was so hyped. And, I mean,
let me tell
when you have a Dreamcast and a wrestling game comes out, you're like, oh, this is already limited, and now I'm getting a wrestling game. This is awesome. And then it's that. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. It was so, and this is probably going to be the nicest thing I ever say about Liam Davis. It was so nice to hear his voice because I haven't had the opportunity to talk to him, like, in a voice call in so long that I was like, oh yeah, I miss Liam Davis a lot. We have to, like, watch a random movie or something again soon.
And the thing is, like, he sounded so nice, and, like, everyone's like, oh, his voice just sounded so, like, peaceful. But, like, when we record our episodes, why does he sound like he's in an elevator with, like, 17 rattlesnakes around him?
I have no idea. I don't understand. You know, it's because he didn't have to spend so much time focusing on getting his camera to work.
That's right. Yeah, all right. We'll chalk it up to that. But, George, we have a streamer spotlight again for the month of February, and it is a friend of yours, Dom Odinson. He's also a DJ. He streams some games. Check him out on Twitch. Speaking of Twitch, once we hit 200 followers, we will be releasing the Bret Hart Retrospect episode. We will cover everything Bret Hart has done in his wrestling video game career. So head on over to twitch.tv/GameMarksPod today. Give us a follow, and that episode will also follow.
And as of right now, we are at 133 followers, so we are so close to hitting 200. And I don't know about you guys, but I really like doing the Undertaker episode, and I thought it was pretty fun, so I'm very excited to do the Hitman for the next video game retrospective.
And the thing is, people might think that following on Twitch, you have to spend money, but you actually don't. All you need is an account, and you just have to follow the account, and that's it, and you're following us. Subscriptions are what cost money, and that's a completely different animal. So if you feel like the follow is intimidating, it's not. You just make an account, follow us, and you're good to go. You'll just get a nice little notification when we go live.
And for the most part, a lot of the times, Amazon accounts transfer over to Twitch, so it's a very simple account-making process.
That's right. Now, George, last week, the first episode dropped of our new hit YouTube show, GMP64. Take us through what happened.
Oh, well, first of all, it's just going to address this right now. The adoring fans need a response from their current hardcore champion. I hear you. I see you. I am humbled to be your hardcore champion. But aside from that monumental victory, this is Johnny and George rebooking the entire No Mercy series storyline, I guess you could say. We're just going through that roster. We're putting together our own storylines where, obviously it's Johnny's team versus my team, but it's more than that. There's real stories that we're putting together. We're treating this as if we were booking an episode of Raw or Dynamite. Like, this is literally if the Game Marks podcast were the producers of a wrestling television show.
And it's so much fun. And like you said, we're rebooking, so that means we could repackage characters, which we already have some planned. You saw the debut of Brian Christopher coming up next week, where I kind of changed up his gear a little bit. He's no longer in Too Cool, so you're going to see a lot of stuff like that. If you want more info on GMP64, we made a nice little webpage for it on GameMarksPod.com/GMP64. You could check out the draft where we kind of explain what's going on. Every Thursday, an episode's going to drop at 7 p.m. Now, George, we did 2 King of the Ring qualifiers, and King of the Ring will be our first pay-per-view live on Twitch, February 28th.
As stands right now, one person from each roster has now advanced to the first round. And in this week's episode, we will see the next 2 entries into the King of the Ring.
This is great. This is probably the most fun thing we've done so far, and I can't wait. Like, we lived it, and I couldn't wait to watch it back live with everyone in the YouTube premiere.
Yeah, so that's how we're going to be doing this live on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. Every Thursday, 7 p.m., the episode will premiere, and there will be a live chat on the right side of the screen, and Johnny and I will be in there chatting with everybody, live reactions from everyone watching on the episode. It would just be, imagine if you were watching Raw with a live chat room. That's what this is going to be. It's
sounds
very
awful.
Exciting. Voice your opinions. Tell everybody how much you love your hardcore champion and how much you think that AIF is going to squash.
Wow.
Clashed.
All right. So I just want to also shout out one of our, I'm not going to give too much because I want people to actually join our Discord and interact. But one of our listeners is actually making kind of like Wrestling Observer newsletters for GMP64 draft and the episode. They are hilarious. They are actually like really fun to read. So if you're in the Discord channel, these are exclusively there. We're not going to post them anywhere. So join up, and that's just one of the perks.
Yeah, so the source of these newsletters has requested to remain anonymous for the time being, but they are something else.
It's great. But with that, George, is it time to throw it to some gaming news?
Let everyone know what's happening this week, Johnny.
What's up, Game Marks Podcast? This is Danny Tancredi, and I'm here with my brother Johnny Tancredi, and together we are the Cult Looking Podcast. Each week we bring to you the latest news and reviews on all things baseball collectibles. From baseball cards and memorabilia to bobbleheads and stadium giveaways, each episode will discuss the newest products to hit the shelves of your local card store and your favorite ballparks around the country. Be sure to be following us on Instagram at The Cult Looking Podcast and on Twitter at CultLookingBB. New episodes drop every Friday, so be sure to tune in wherever great podcasts, like this one, are available. The Cult Looking Podcast. Don't get caught looking, start collecting.
Elon Musk revealed only a few days back that he's apparently a big fan of the Halo series. Now it looks like the powers that be over at Xbox are looking to capitalize on it. In a recent message on Twitter from Aaron Greenberg, the general manager of marketing at Xbox, it was said that Musk needs to look to make some sort of Halo collaboration inspired with Tesla. Musk himself didn't end up replying to the tweet, but fans in the replies were definitely keen on the idea. Greenberg himself also asserted via hashtags that the crossover should somehow involve Tesla's Cybertruck and the Warthog from Halo. Sony has revealed that the upcoming Resident Evil reboot will now release in theaters on September 3rd, 2021. As of this, the film still remains untitled. The reboot premises a more faithful adaptation of the first two entries in Capcom's survival horror video game franchise, starting with the Raccoon City outbreak in 1998. The film will represent the 7th live-action Resident Evil film. The 6 previous in the series earned $1.2 billion worldwide. And with the news of a new Mass Effect, before the development of Mass Effect 2 ever began, BioWare apparently looked to expand the franchise's universe in a very new and interesting manner. Over a decade ago, in 2008, the studio briefly had a game concept put together for a Mass Effect spin-off where the players would control a character that was meant to mirror that of Han Solo from Star Wars. This information has come in a new interview from The Gamer, where former BioWare employee Dorian Keegan talked about the project. He went on to say that the title wasn't meant to be a supplement of the mainline Mass Effect trilogy and was instead supposed to expand the universe a little bit more. That's all the gaming news we have this week. Check back next week. So would you want a Warthog Cybertruck?
So I'm up in the air with my feelings on the Cybertruck as it is. I understand the appeal because yes, it absolutely does look like a Warthog from Halo, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to have that in real life.
Yeah, I don't even think I want the Cybertruck in real life. That's just weird.
Yeah, there's just something about it. I don't know.
Now, were you a Mass Effect guy at all?
I was not. I follow the series. I'm aware of its existence. It's on. I have a running Excel sheet of all of the games that I need to go back and play now that I have all of my old consoles hooked up. So Mass Effect is on the list.
All right. Well, luckily for you, they're putting out the entire original trilogy this year. So you might just be able to scoop that up and replay all of them. I stopped at 2, but
that's the plan.
Yeah, I stopped at 2, but those games are a lot of fun, and I definitely see how like a Han Solo spin-off type would play into it.
All right, well, John, this is usually the part where we go and hop on over to the question of the week, but it's a little different this week. Are you ready?
Yeah, last week we changed the format, and I'm ready to see what the marks have for us.
Yeah, Game Marks, We're here to tell you that the Game Marks podcast is on Pro Wrestling Tees and T Public, But the cream will always rise to the top. Now, there are 2 ways to shop. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod or tpublic.com/user/GameMarksPod, because you know the Game Marks podcast is the cream of the crop, So head on over today and bow down to the kingdom of the madness. Your mustache's crooked, Marks.
That's right. When you buy a t-shirt from us on ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod the whole month of February, the Game Marks, that's me and George, will give you a phone call.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe we'll even be able to arrange some special guest run-ins on these calls. Who knows?
That would be awesome. I think we could do it.
So, how the question of the week used to work is that Johnny or myself would propose a question to you, and you would let us know all of your answers on any form of social media at GameMarksPod. Now, we're going to look at the last question in this format, which was, out of all of the questions of the week from the past, which was the most memorable? I said that I really like the crossover game, and I still really want that hockey wrestling crossover. Johnny, remind everyone of your answer.
I said the most memorable one was when we opened up the conversation about tag teams with Justin Leeper.
Yes. And Nick Hudson At MC Conditioner says, the soundtrack question. We often forget how important music can be for the setting. Look at Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal. Both games are based around demons and have heavy metal music. And that, I think, is great. I mean, it really kind of sets the stage if you take, think about wrestling.
Yeah, wait, didn't we?
Wrestlers' entrance music.
We have new information about that, don't we?
Okay, so fun fact that was brought up, and this is another reason why you need to come and hang out on Wednesday nights on Twitch. Fun fact. Did you know that WrestleMania...
Oh, we're not there yet.
Not that. Did you know? Just a general. Did you know? That WrestleMania 2000's menu theme is actually Psycho Holiday by Pantera.
Oh.
And I got one more for you. The WCW vs. NWO Revenge theme music is actually Erotic Nightmares by Steve Vai.
That's crazy. So what is Dick Diggity Dog?
I would believe that that's just an original.
Oh, okay.
Now, that information comes to us courtesy of at Will is Ballin'.
That's awesome.
Today years old, I guess you can say, was when I learned that these were actual real songs. So that's absolutely being added to the workout playlist for myself. I know that Broski said that he also is going to plan on doing that as well. So.
All right, so this week's question of the week, we're going to pick one of you, and you will get a Game Marks prize pack just for asking a question that we choose. And this week it goes to Casper_Stevens on Instagram. A lot of wrestlers had persona changes and character development over the years. Which one was your favorite? Second to that, if you could change The Undertaker's persona and rebrand him all over again, where would you take his new image? George, start us off.
All right, so the first one that comes to mind, hearing the repackaging, rebranding. I mean, I'm thinking Hunter Hearst Helmsley to Triple H to the Game. Like, I'm thinking that transition is huge. Like that, you knew who Triple H was, or you knew who Hunter Hearst Helmsley was, but everyone knows who Triple H is.
Putting on those trunks just takes you to the moon,
That's it.
Yeah, I think Triple H is definitely a good one because, like, he went from this, like, pompous Connecticut, like, asshole to just, like, the cerebral assassin, and it was just, like, something just switched inside of him where it just took his character to, like, all these new heights.
Yeah, like Hunter Hearst Helmsley is not making that comeback after that quad tear.
No, definitely not. The Garden would not rock out like that for Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
And what about you? What do you think?
So the first one that came to mind is from like the Sultan to Rikishi in Too Cool.
Oh,
but then,
okay.
And then even after that, when he was like the bad man Rikishi, it was also just like a subtle change, just like a change in his like demeanor. He still looked the same, but it was just another dimension to his character.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that answer. That's a very good one.
Would you ever think the Sultan would come out to the ring, put on yellow sunglasses, and dance with Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor?
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking, is that I feel like the obvious answers, and this is me like crapping on my own answer here, but like I feel like someone like the Triple H, like the Undertaker, are the obvious answers, but I feel like, wrestlers, personas like Rikishi, Sultan, Bad Man, like those are the characters that are more likely to get overlooked. But you can even say as a whole, that group, you can say Too Cool as a whole. So you can say the transition of Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor to when they were Too Much. And then that transition from Too Much to Too Cool with Rikishi is, no one in their wildest dreams is planning that to take off and be as astronomically popular as it was.
Yeah, now this was a two-parter. How would you repackage The Undertaker? Now we got American Badass Undertaker. Would you do something differently? How would you take him to a new height?
So part of me almost wants to say, and this is, again, first answer that came to mind, I almost wish that the Ministry was run by the Brothers of Destruction. where it was Kane and Undertaker on top, and they each kind of had their own minions underneath. Like, you know, maybe it is where, you know, you get Mideon and the APA on Taker's side, and like that's his, when he, for his feuds, those are his cronies. And then for Kane, maybe you had the Brood and you had Gangrel, Edge, and Christian on
cool.
Kane's side of the Ministry. But together, that whole group is the Ministry.
That's not bad. You know, I actually got in trouble once in elementary school because you know, like you would have those little desks with like little cubbies on the bottom you would put your books in. These people would come in after, like the Girl Scouts or whatever, and they would steal like my pencils. Like I would have cool like Pokemon pencils. They would steal them. So I covered it with paper and I taped it and I wrote "Back off, the corporate ministry" like under it. And like the teachers saw that and thought it was like, I don't know, something like, what is a ministry? What are you going to do? I'm like, it's just a wrestling thing. They're like, oh, okay. But no, I like that a lot. I think kind of like what we saw in GMP64, I kind of would want a mashup of, he kind of did this later on, like a mashup of everything the Undertaker's been a part of. The Ministry of the Undertaker, the Purple Gloves Undertaker, the hat wearing Undertaker. Like just put everything into one, put the black bandana on for the American Badass, and just come out on a motorcycle.
So you're saying like
kind of like a legacy Undertaker.
You were saying like it was like Boneyard Undertaker, where it's like all of the years of Undertaker combined into one, and it's just, this is the Undertaker. He's everything in one.
Yeah. So like right off into the sunset as like everything you did.
I like that. I appreciate that answer. I think that was a good one.
And as usual, we're sticking with this. We now ask you, the fans, which persona change or character development over the years has been your favorite, and how would you rebrand The Undertaker? Casper Stevens, message us on Instagram, and we will send you your prize. Now, George, are you ready to take that plunge?
I'm on the diving board. I'm ready to do my can opener. It's time for the deep dive. Are you sick of drinking the same old boring coffee with the same old boring flavors? Well, Marks, it's time for you to check out Bones Coffee Company. Bones Coffee isn't just a drink that wakes you up in the morning. It's a full flavor experience. Small batch roasts that are made to order so that every order is guaranteed to be fresh. Unbelievable, all-natural flavors in every single bag. Some of our favorites are bluesberry, paradise pie, and chocolate raspberry. But if you're not into the flavored coffees, they've got their single origin series featuring coffee beans from the greatest coffee growing regions in the world. Visit GameMarksPod.com/coffee to place your order and try the world's freshest small batch coffee. Oh, Johnny Clash. Bones Coffee, baby. What flavor are you having this week? Are you still on that gingerbread kick?
I cold brewed the ginger brew. I cold brewed the gingerbread this week, and I think I went through probably 2 complete containers full already.
All right, now I'm super interested in this, and I can you give a very brief summation of how one cold brews?
Well, I have the like glass container, and then it has a filter that goes in it. And you just kind of fill that up, then you fill it with water, and you leave it for 24 hours.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because I'm very curious about that, because I also am a big fan of cold brew.
I'll send it to you after what I have. But, George, it's time now for the deep dive. Take us through this game.
Tag Team Match M.U.S.C.L.E, released in Japan on November 8th, 1985, and in America in October of 1986. Now, this is for the Famicom and the original Nintendo. Developed by TOS, published by Bandai, and you know, Johnny, we've tackled a few games in this series, and there are a lot more still to play. This is all based on the Kinnikuman comics. You know, it's Ultimate Muscle, it's Kinnikuman, it's all part of that same universe, and this is one of the more early titles in this series.
Yeah, this is actually the third in the whole series, which came before it was Kinnikuman in 1988 for the PC, and then Kinnikuman Coliseum Deathmatch in 1985 for the MSX. Now, that was kind of Microsoft's, I guess, PC console machine.
Yeah, it's like Microsoft's response to like the Commodore,
right,
I guess.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah, so the big thing for this game is that it's only tag matches. Every playthrough is a tag match. So you're playing single player, it's tag matches. You're playing 2-player, it's a tag match. And I think right off the bat, you load up the game, you go to pick your characters. I mean, maybe this is just because we've played a couple of the games, but these little headshot sprites that they have, if you are even just the smallest amount familiar with Ultimate Muscle or Kinnikuman at all, you already have like a familiarity with these. Like, these are not like crazy heavily detailed sprites, but you almost can figure out who everyone is right off the jump.
It was actually kind of cool because we do know who the characters are from playing the other games. That we're like, oh, there's Kinnikuman, oh, there's Ramen Man, oh, there's Robin Mask. And yeah, they have that. They're not highly detailed, but it's like the coloring, it's their face, and you could tell exactly who they are. Now, while we only have a 1-player versus computer tag match or a 2v2 tag match, the game does have different rounds. So each exhibition, I'll say, is 3 rounds. And then you go to the next 3 rounds. So it's kind of 3 rounds out of 3 rounds out of 3 rounds, if that makes any sense at all. Everything's a best of 3. But the cool thing when we were able to play through this was every round the mat changes, the ring changes, like the whole arena changes. We noticed the first one was very generic. The second one, when you moved, you kind of slid a bit, and we realized that we were on ice. Now the third one was where we really got got screwed up because it was like this green arena with like lightning all over the place and like fire, and when you hit the ropes they actually electrify you, which kind of screwed us up because we were hitting the ropes a lot. But that's just another dynamic that kind of makes the game have more playability, kind of takes it to another level as far as it's not just a generic wrestling game. It brings that Kinnikuman, I don't know, it just brings like that world onto your screen in a wrestling match.
Yeah, it was 1985, 1986, this game comes out, and, playing this game, 2021, expectations are not high from an original Nintendo game, but match type wise, that overall experience wasn't bad. I was not expecting going into this and being like, all right, the second match is going to be like an ice floor. The third match is going to be an electrified ring. Like, that was a big surprise the first time that we actually like loaded up the game and just were doing matches against each other. By the 4th or 5th or 6th time that we're playing through these matches, now we know how to like go back and forth and like how to use these things to our advantage. In a second, we're going to talk about like your abilities and the movesets and stuff, but like you learn to adapt based on the match type that you're in and what strategy works. And it feels weird to even say strategy for a game that's this old where there's only 2 buttons, but like the strategy and how to use like this in the different match types.
Yeah, there actually was a strategy. That was something. It's not like pro wrestling where you just hit, pin, done.
It's not just button mashing.
Right. And as we kept going on throughout the matches, I felt like we kept discovering more and more stuff and stuff just kept clicking. We're like, wow, okay. This game is actually pretty cool. It's not as generic as it might look, like the cover and like the initial presentation of it. It's not just a generic wrestling game.
Yeah, it's a very unassuming wrestling game. If you're not, if you're not familiar with the series and you don't immediately recognize the character on the cover, or if you're not like a huge fan of wrestling, this appears to just be, it's just a regular like Nintendo game.
So let's go through the actual gameplay now, because A button is jump, B is punches, or it activates the special move. Now, the special move is thrown into the ring via an energy ball that is randomly thrown by a boy called Meat. No, we're not talking about Sean Stasiak. It is a little character that appears. We thought it was a cameraman at first, and then we noticed that he chucks this ball. If you hit the ball first, you start lighting up kind of like Mario, grabbing the star, and you activate your special. Now, the cool part is everyone's special was different. Where George picked a guy who kind of had like a gorilla press slam, I picked someone who had he like threw these things across the ring, which wasn't the most, I would say, fair special move because I was kind of just shooting you, but we didn't know going in whose special was what, and I thought it was cool that they were able to program everyone having a different special.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you were playing as Brocken Jr., and
Right.
Yeah, it really messes you up. I mean, the finishers themselves, super cool. Not, it's not like you need to have a button combination to hit them. Animation is it's what you would expect from a original Nintendo Famicom game. But there's a certain, I don't know, presentation.
Yeah. And, and we'll go through
that goes along with it.
And we'll go through all the finishers when we go through the roster also.
The one thing that really stuck out to me is as your character's health goes down, you move slower. So It's very easy to be wrestling in a match. You take a couple hits, you run to the corner, you tag out. Now your character comes back in. Maybe he's got a little bit more health. If you're at the last 2 circles of health, you are at a snail's pace and you are just easy pickings if you're not careful, which, again, a very interesting thing that you can change and use the match types to your advantage. In the ice floor, moving slowly definitely helps you advance and get to the next the corner to tag.
Yeah, and then it's just kind of the generic moves there. You have the punch, the kick, but I think what we utilized the most was you're able to jump and kind of springboard, and you springboard off the ropes into like looks like you're flying, even though it's supposed to be like either a lariat or a drop kick. But I think that was your easiest way to kind of attack the person. But much like every other old school game, if you move to the right or if you move to the left, you could easily just get behind your opponent. And from there, the bridging German suplex was a very, very big go-to by us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like every time we play a game, we always find that one strategy that works best. Because, even though we've been playing this for, we've been doing this podcast for, 70, almost 80 weeks now. We have different strategies. And, I feel like over the year, plus, the strategies have adapted and we've changed, because if we played the same way now that we were playing in the first 2 episodes, these matches would not be as exciting for Clash at the Feast. It would be the same thing every time because we would just know everyone's strategies, each other's strategies the entire time.
Yeah, so something else that's weird, we mentioned the rounds in this game, how they're kind of best of 3s within a best of 3. Now, although the game does go on endlessly, you could keep playing, it officially, within the game itself, has 255 rounds. And after the rounds, the player enters round 0, on which the speed level resets and the time per round returns to 30 minutes. Now, it's believed the maximum score that you could get in this game, because it is an old game, they do like to put the score up as well, is 99,999,999 points. But after that, it's kind of unknown what happens. They believe it just resets back to 0. Now, I don't know if I would ever play this game long enough to hit that score, but I'm assuming someone...
There's Johnny Clash's next Twitch stream. It's 255 rounds of Kinnikuman.
It's probably more entertaining than if I play Age of Empires, but... Now, want to go through this roster here? I'll take you through the roster and the finishers.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
All right, so in the North American version, he's known as Muscle Man, but here we have the cover boy, Kinniku Man, with his finisher, the Kinniku Driver. He carries his opponent and jumps off the screen straight up and comes down. Then there's Terry Man with the finisher of a Bulldog Headlock, basically a speedy version of a lariat. Ramen Man with the finisher of a leg lariat. It kind of looks like a dropkick mixed with a bonsai drop. Robin Mask with the Tower Bridge, the Argentine backbreaker, which was Lex Luger's torture rack. Buffalo Man, which was known as Terry Bull in the North American version. His finisher is the Hurricane Mixer, and for a short distance he can charge you with his horned head. Now Warsman's finisher is the Bear Claw, where he covers long distance than the Hurricane Mixer. And the Ashura Man with the finisher, the Ashura Buster, basically Brain Buster. Now, this is who I picked, and if I knew that this was who he was and what he represented, I wouldn't have picked it. But in the Japanese version, there is Brocken Jr., and his finisher is the Nazi gas attack. Now, luckily there's a North American version, and that is Geronimo, whose finisher is the Apache War Cry. Now, there's a note in here that Brocken Jr. and Geronimo are the same in the game, just the graphic is different. So, we played the Japanese version, and I did not know I was hitting you with that gas attack. Maybe I would have taken a little different approach if that was the case.
Yeah, I mean...
I thought it was Old Greg from the Mighty Boosh.
I'm Old Greg.
Or Rosemary from Impact.
Now, here's a fun little fact, Johnny, and we always say how much we love games that have these. There's a cheat code.
Of course there is. Nintendo loved their Game Genie and their cheat codes.
So great. So at the Wrestler Select screen, if you hit A and B on the second controller, and then at the same time, press B on the first controller and up on the second controller, it will increase the number of rounds. So pretty much, if you're hitting A and B on the second controller, and then press B on the first controller, you can now use up and down on the second controller to increase or decrease the number of rounds. So,
interesting.
You know, you want to have a best of 5, best of 7.
Yeah, maybe we should have done that. Maybe it would have went on a little longer, but...
Oh, maybe that's what we'll do on Wednesday.
That's not a bad idea. So let's talk about the character models and the art style here. We kind of touched upon what the characters look like. Let's go through kind of the arena. You have the ring. Now, unlike pro wrestling, the perspective on this ring is actually correct, where it looks like it's somewhat three-dimensional, even though it's not. You have the stage lights. You barely see the crowd. They're kind of just peeking out of the corner here, and they're kind of just little colored objects. But the turnbuckles are the typical Japanese style turnbuckles. It looks great. I like this a lot. And like we said, as you move on, there's actually different stages you can get where the mat will turn blue. That represents ice. Where the ropes are electrified. And now I understand how the second game in this series was like a hardcore deathmatch game, because these elements are kind of in here too.
Yeah, it definitely sets the stage. I'm like, hey, if these game modes and these match types go over well, maybe this is a recurring theme in these games.
Yeah, overall though, it's bright, it's colorful, you have your round number with the time limit, and your health bar is only 5 little dots that certain moves will take a couple, certain moves will take maybe half, and then the second move will take the dot away. But once that dot is gone, there's no pin, there's no submission, it's kind of knockout and you're done.
Yeah, so how it works, just based on our gameplay, is that basic grapples and strikes, it's anywhere between 2 to 3 hits to remove that one of those bubbles. If you hit your opponent with a finisher, though, depending on the finisher itself, it's either a 1 bubble and a slow, or a stun, I guess maybe would be the better word, or it's 2 full circles. So depending on the character that you pick and the tag team that you make, you could really put together some deadly combos. And if you are able to grab one of those special ability orbs, you can then tag out. So if you pick it up as one character, you can tag out and it transfers over to the new person in the ring.
And also, the person outside the ring regains their health as they sit outside the ring. But these games are quick. You kind of don't really have time to do much tagging in and out. It's kind of, you pick someone, you might tag out once or twice, and then you're kind of just rocking and rolling.
Yeah, you kind of are able to set the pace of how, you want to take your time, be a little more methodical, try to hit certain moves. You can definitely do that. But if you play anything like Johnny and I tend to play these kinds of games, it's just all out war from the time that the bell rings.
Yeah, we're just going at each other quickly. Now, let's go through the actual artwork here, because everyone's familiar with that M.U.S.C.L.E logo. This logo was on these miniature figures. They're kind of little unpainted figurines that they had the entire M.U.S.C.L.E roster. These go for quite a bit on eBay if you're looking for the originals from 1986. But now you could actually see them in stores such as like Five Below, where there's like WWE versions with Ric Flair, Sergeant Slaughter, Ted DiBiase. They're kind of cool.
Yeah, I definitely seen these before, and if you have ever been to a Five Below, either on a fig hunt or any kind of shopping extravaganza, you have definitely seen this logo, and I feel like this is definitely a logo that you'll be familiar with.
I have a pack somewhere. I just don't know where they are. I thought they were over here.
But the artwork for this cover, you see that muscle logo with the fist and the M. Yeah, it says it's a Tag Team Match M.U.S.C.L.E. That's the name of the game. Very clearly spells it out for you. You see probably the weirdest rendition of Kinnikuman that we've ever seen so far in the games that we've played. You have that wonderful, iconic Bandai logo paired along with all of the presentation of the original NES I guess art style, that red banner with the NES logo, that gold seal, the Nintendo seal of approval, screenshot of the game. You get a good idea of what the game's about. Kind of presentation could have been a little better, but I'm not going to be a stickler. The times, this is what this artwork for a lot of these games look like.
Now, I've mentioned before how I've always seen like Kinnikuman in the past, and I just didn't know kind of what it was or what it represented. I think this is kind of the visual of Kinnikuman himself, that you're just kind of like, what is that guy? He looks like a wrestler. He's jacked, but then he's got this weird like pyramid on his head. Yeah, he's like a monster character mixed with a Transformer character mixed with like a wrestler. It's odd, but now that we know what it's from, what it represents, we've dug a little deeper, it works.
Yeah, it absolutely works. You know what it is right out of the gate. So there's no question, if you're familiar with the series, that you're going to know what this is. Flipping over to the back cover, you see the Bandai logo, a lot of the same assets from the front cover, 2 screenshots of the game, and then it says, "Team up for a rough and tumble match. With the World's Tag Team Wrestling Championship up for grabs, wrestlers have gathered to battle it out for this prestigious title. But only those with the most muscle even stand a chance. You and your partners can tag up against some great ring tacticians in this fun, action-filled game pack. Your opponent's special wrestling techniques can dazzle, confuse, and conquer you. But with wise use of the booster ball, when it's thrown your way, your team can jump, kick, and punch its way to the top of this thrilling and challenging game. Players, 1-2, warranty, 90-day limited warranty on a game pack, complete warranty, information inside the box."
Oh, you should be a radio host. So looking at the screenshots here, it's screenshots of this game. What's crazy is like 1985, people picked this up and like, wow, this game looks awesome. Like I specifically remember getting like, I think a PlayStation 1 and playing Warzone, and my dad being like, wow, these graphics are awesome. And me like, yeah, oh my God, it's so lifelike. And now we're in the year 2021, like it's only progressed from there, where we're seeing like individual hairs of characters in like The Last of Us blow in the wind, you know? It's just crazy. Yeah. This was like the height of video games in this era, and how far we've come in really not that much time.
That's true. I mean, it's within our lifetime.
Yeah.
That we've been able to see this transition. It's nuts. It's crazy to you and I both gamers for our whole lives. I'm sure most of our listeners are as well. Just, think about it. Take a step back and think of the games that you played growing up. Think of what Mario looked like on the original Nintendo when you were a kid, and think of what Mario looks like now on the Switch.
Yeah,
it
crazy.
Doesn't even look like the same person. But Johnny, did you know?
Did you know the gold edition of the Japanese version of the game has been a sought-after collector's item and is considered the holy grail of the Famicom collection?
Did you know in 2017 the gold edition of Famicom version has been valued at $18,200?
Did you know the NES cartridge is on eBay for $11.99, the manual for $30, and an empty box goes for $169.99 with the complete set for $499?
Good God. That's up there it may be one of the most expensive versions of any game that we have ever played on this podcast so far. But we're about to hop into a little, little R&R, little ratings and reviews. But before we do that, we'll pay some bills here. Hear a word from our sponsors.
All right, yeah, no, it just doesn't work the same when I do it.
Yes.
All right, so the ratings and reviews. Unfortunately, an older game, there's not much to go on. So right now I have the game FAQ user rating where, out of 82 ratings, the user average for this game is a 2.5 out of 5 stars. The difficulty is easy/just right out of 49 reviews with a 3 out of 5 stars. And the length, which is hours played out of 22, ends in 6 hours, which is bottom of the barrel. But George, with that, it's now time for the most important rating of them all. It's time for our rating, because it's time to rate the games.
The game!
All right, Johnny Clash. Tag Team Match M.U.S.C.L.E for the NES. Are you gonna play it forever?
Woo!
Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
Going in, I was excited because we knew these characters and we love these characters. This is one of my favorite series that we've played on this podcast. I don't think this game really disappointed at all. I think it was full of like kind of new stuff that we were picking up along the way. Would I go back and play it again? Yes, I would. Play it forever.
Woo!
Okay. And George, what say you?
I think I'm inclined to agree with you again this week, John. Like you said, this is a game series that before we started this podcast, I was not very familiar with. It was something that I was aware of. I knew it existed, but I had never gone out of my way to play any of the games. And this series has yet to disappoint. I'm sure somewhere along the way, there's going to be some part of one of the games that's going to drop the ball, because that always happens, especially with these long-running series. There's always something that misses the mark. But so far, the titles that we've played, I've liked them all. And I may even go and say that this may be a game that you may even find me running through on our Twitch channel. Like, this just is a different experience. It was a different presentation. It felt fun and lively. It had things that you wouldn't expect in a game from 1986.
Woo!
And yeah, definitely play it forever. All right, George, but let's talk about our weekly tournament, Clash at the Feast. All right, so for this week's episode of Clash at the Feast, head on over to youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. So last week, we decided the first game of February. George, do you want to take us through this?
Last week, we played WWF Royal Rumble for the Sega Dreamcast. First match, The Rock vs. Triple H. Your winner, George Feis. Second match, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kurt Angle. Your winner, Johnny Clash. Third match, The Big Show versus Kane. And your winner, George Feis. Which means the standings for the month are now 5-1 in favor of your reigning, defending, hardcore and Clash at the Feast champion.
Right. Yeah, we all know how to boost our No Mercy stats. It's cool.
George
Wait till Clash gets in there.
Play my music.
All right, George, fun fact here. So with us both playing this game forever, the past 5 games, that's Rage in the Cage, UWC, Fire Pro Wrestling, Royal Rumble, and now Tag Team Match M.U.S.C.L.E, we've played it forever on all of those. There hasn't been a future endeavor since I future endeavored Wrestling Revolution 3D, and before that, you future endeavored Super Wrestle Angels. Now, the last double future was WCW Nitro for PlayStation.
Yes, and I would absolutely do that again.
Yeah. But what are we playing next week?
All right, so like we mentioned earlier, on last Friday, I was very fortunate enough to be able to play No Mercy with Matt Cardona from the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, and he brought up a game that he had played, and it got my wheels turning, and I realized that it's a game that we haven't played yet. So next week on the podcast, we are diving into the classic WWF WrestleMania Challenge.
Ooh, baby.
NES.
Give me that 3/4 turned ring every day.
Oh, Super Brawl, we're coming back for you.
Oh, boy. Cool. So with that, I want to say one last thing. We conducted a really cool interview. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but it is going to drop in 2 weeks and is going to coincide with the release of Retromania Wrestling.
Oh.
That's all I'll give away now. Take us home, Georgie.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week on the Game Marks podcast. Please check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store at prowrestlingtees.com/GameMarksPod. It is the best way besides listening to support the podcast. And be sure to follow us on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. Leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts and subscribe wherever great podcasts can be found. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. If you are an old listener, a new listener, however you happen to find us, thank you for the support. As always, wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance, get safe. Johnny Clash, say goodbye, bud.
Game over, Marks.
Game Marks podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no game shard. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks podcast every single Monday.